Now, everything old is new again. America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
He's Tarzan. You're Jane. He'll come for you.
There's 1,000 men down there. 20,000 more on the way.
We don't stand a chance.
A normal man can do the impossible to save the woman he loves. My husband is no normal man.
Welcome to Everything Old is New Again. This is Douglas Viviani with Nature Boy himself, David Cohen.
Yes. So happy to be back.
Back from vacation, huh?
Yes. How was your vacation?
My vacation was terrific. Had a nice time, refreshed and ready to go. I heard a lot of comments about what we did with the radio show while we were gone for those 2 weeks.
Barbecue guy and fondue guy sat in for us and apparently really knocked it out of the park.
They did. A lot of people had a lot of fun. I'm going to have to go back and listen to those shows. I wasn't around to be able to listen, so I'll go into everythingoldisnewagain.biz, pull up old shows or podcasts, click on that, and listen to what they did. I think it's great to have two people we can rely upon to carry the show with us for us.
Definitely, yeah.
There was a little bit of I understand a little
drama,
there.
In the second show, right?
Well, maybe Dr. Phil will have as a guest next time when the two of them are around. We can do a little evaluation of them. But this week, we are diving into the legend of Tarzan. I mean, this summer, it's alive and well. The story is over 100 years old. Edgar Rice Burroughs' masterpiece was first released, when do you think? 1912.
Did they even have film back then?
They did not have film back then. Well, they did. They had silent movies, but this, of course, was a book first. And they had silent movies. The first silent movie we'll talk about came out in 1918 of Tarzan. It was one of the
Can't
first
imagine Tarzan silent, without that yell.
Exactly. We'll dive into that. We're going to look at that. We're also going to say that, think about it, though. This person, this Tarzan, this character, has been around so long that it's really your grandfather's or grandmother's or even great-grandfather or grandmother's superhero.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, he was a superhero before comics, before there were superheroes. There's a lot of those.
Before Superman, before Batman. Right?
Absolutely. I mean, using the background of the plethora, I like that word, of DC and Marvel superhero movies, TV shows, comic books, as a reference point, let's look to the superhero before the advent of the comic book and see how they serve as today's foundation for the Avengers. So, and also even Justice League. So next week's show, we're going to, the little tease, they call it a billboard. We're going to billboard next week's show where we're going to do a Victorian Avengers and talk about these heroes from yesteryear that you may not realize serve as the foundation for the Avengers today, really. But let's talk about Tarzan right now, because that movie's out and it's blockbuster. It's doing terrific. And I don't know, it seems like you may or may not be into it. Sometimes these heroes that are, we did a show on Dracula, we did a show on Hercules, and some of these guys have been around for a long time, and sometimes it's the luster is off of the apple, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, I like Tarzan. I like the story. It's enough of this already, I mean, Hercules, it didn't work. What was the other one you mentioned?
No, Dracula.
Dracula didn't work, and, right. I don't know. I know the story. I don't need to see it again. I don't need to see a modern version of it.
I think in this show, you're going to hear things about Tarzan that you've never heard before.
Really?
In a few minutes. First, let's just take a look and get a kick out of 1932 to 36. There was a radio show, Tarzan, and that's where your grandparents would have been introduced to Tarzan. Let's see how long ago it was, about 80 years. So yeah, probably your grandparents, maybe even your great-grandparents, introduced to this character on the radio.
Tarzan of the Apes, brought to you from out the pages of Edgar Rice Burroughs' amazing book.
How about that? It's the infancy of radio. Now, remember, the 40s and 50s radio was its golden age, and they perfected these radio plays. This is 1932, the introduction of Tarzan, and they were very serious, and it didn't sound too great, did it?
No, and it's barely audible, but... So it was a book first.
Book first.
I did not know that.
Yeah, book first, absolutely. And then...
That garbled radio show, and then what happened?
Let's actually go back back in time. That was the radio version.
I thought we did already. Okay.
No, we're going to go back, do it reverse. Further than back, in 1921, Tarzan was on Broadway. It was on Broadway recently and failed. It was on Broadway in 1921. It was a big hit.
Really?
Before that, in 1918, started the movies of Tarzan. In 1918, there was Tarzan the Ape Man, the first silent, not the first silent movie, but it was a silent movie starring a guy named Elmo Lincoln, who you'll hear about later on in this show. Very interesting Elmo Lincoln
Abe's son?
We'll find out. Remember the name. And from that point forward, there's been 200 movies involving Tarzan. Think about that.
Yeah, so we need another one.
Exactly.
200 is not enough.
Correct. We're going to revisit this. And then, of course, because everything old is new again. And then we've got the book was...
That's not always a good thing.
Developed in 1912. Edgar Rice Burroughs produced from 1912 to 1965, 24 books. But what's curious about that is he died in 1950. So from 50 to 65,
he's very talented.
He is very talented. They produce books. His estate produced books and have been involved ever since. So let's take a look. We've talked about that, Tarzan movie in the radio show. The same year as that radio show, in 1932, there was the movie Tarzan, the Ape.
What are we going to do, Badass?
Tarzan, Jane, boy, love it, Jane.
Darling, that's quite a sentence.
Now that's Maureen O'Sullivan and Johnny Weissmuller, the most famous couple that performed, Tarzan and Jane. Now here's the thing: was Tarzan a dope? Was he that dopey where he would talk like that?
I mean, that's how I always remembered him.
That's the thing. That's the first mistake that's made. Just like Frankenstein. These literary characters, Frankenstein, if you remember our Frankenstein shows, if you want to take a look at those, again, go back to the podcast, you could hear, and as we discussed that, the same as Tarzan, they were intelligent beings and were able to communicate better than you hear them in these movies. They thought of him as this goof, this ape man, but he was a very intelligent. I'm going to list a little bit of his abilities that were listed and see if you really believe or see that in the movies. First of all, he is able to climb and cling and leap as well as any ape or better.
Right. Yeah, we've seen that.
Right?
Sure.
He uses branches and hanging vines to swing at great speed. So that you knew. Did you know that he's a skilled tracker and uses his exceptional sense of hearing and smell to follow his prey? His sense of hearing allows him to eavesdrop on conversations between other people. All right, so he can hear well. I mean, that's not really a great superpower, but he's got that. Here's a great one. He's able to communicate with animals, and in particular, great tribes of great big apes that live in his local area.
Well, he is the
Africa.
ape man, right? Tarzan the ape man.
But he can communicate with these animals, and you see in some of the movies that happens. He's extremely intelligent, was literate in English before being able to speak the language. When he first encounters the English speaking Jane, he spoke, of course, ape, right? But after that, he learned French, Finnish, English, Dutch, German, Swahili,
really,
Greek, ancient Latin. All of this.
Did the movies ever portray him?
Never
like that?
All the Edgar Rice Burroughs books portray that, but this doesn't. He communicates with these speakers, and he's a skilled impressionist. Is able to mimic the sound of even a gunshot perfectly. And in Tarzan's Quest, 1935, he was one of the recipients of an immortality drug at the end of the book that basically made him immortal, which is the reason why he's still here to this day.
That was smart by Mr. Burroughs, right?
How do you like that? Yeah, that was pretty good.
Never kill him off.
Yeah.
He's immortal.
But he's very articulate. He shouldn't be this dope. Anyway, we're going to dive into this a little bit more and talk about Tarzan and how he relates to superheroes today.
He could do the Rubik's Cube in like less than 30 minutes.
We'll be back on Everything Old is New Again, the 1966 Tarzan TV theme. Everything Old is New Again. Come on back.
You're listening to Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show, with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Welcome back to Everything Old is New Again. That sounds like me at the barbecue after I've overcooked the steak. And I go in and I cut it and it's well done. This is Douglas Viviani with the irreplaceable David Cohen. How are you today?
Irreplaceable for now. I know how that works.
Angelica's in the
waiting
training.
in the wings. I know.
Anyway, that was, believe it or not, Buster Crabbe, who was in 1933 Tarzan. In a serial, what we call that a serial was every week you'd go to the movies and you'd see a different episode of Tarzan. So now, do you remember Buster Crabbe? We've talked about him in the past.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of him. And
he is known as being Flash Gordon.
Yes.
Around the same time period. Now, it's funny, he was an Olympic swimmer first and became an actor. Johnny Weissmuller was an Olympic swimmer first and became the most well-known Tarzan of all time. And you could hear that yell is different.
Very different.
We're going to be yelling a little bit later on in this episode, with this show, trying to do our Tarzan yell, if you want to hear that. But before we get to that was Buster Crabbe's attempt or his first presentation of the yell for Tarzan. But did you know, I know they had an interesting relationship. Tarzan's got a relationship through Buster Crabbe to Superman. I think you'll be interested to see that Flash Gordon...
Connect the dots thing here?
Yes, conquers the universe. Buster Crabbe is in Flash Gordon as well, with somebody else speaking as his dad. See if you can picture who this is.
That's a splendid achievement, son. The world will be waiting to give you and Professor Zarkov the finest welcome in the history of mankind.
No, Dad, I'm not coming back. Zarkov's not with me.
No, he and Dale were taken prisoners by me.
There you go. Again, 1930s Buster Crabbe and his great series of, Flash Gordon Conquers the Universe, and that one is actually 1940. Do you remember that name sound familiar?
It sounds like the actor who played Perry White in the Superman show.
It sure does. It's John Hamilton, Perry White. Here he is now.
Caesar's ghost, are you going to wear that outfit into the jungle?
Now that's him as Perry White, but he sounds like he's yelling at Tarzan, Buster Crabbe.
Yeah, you can wear that in the jungle. Who is he? Who do you think he was talking to?
In Flash Gordon, he was Flash Gordon's dad, Buster Crabbe's dad. In that clip, he's Perry White.
So who's he talking about? Were you going out in that outfit?
I don't know.
That's weird.
It's a interesting combination. All joking aside, this guy had some great abilities, and that's why I think this character is so fascinating. I don't know.
Can you give me, I'm ashamed to say this because it's been so long since I've seen a Tarzan movie. Can you just, in 30 seconds, recap the story of Tarzan?
Yes, and just as an aside, I know it sounds bizarre. I have I have young children.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen many Tarzan movies, but one of the best that tells the story pretty well is, if you're looking for a Reader's Digest
Disney animated version?
The Disney animated is very good. But the bottom line is that Tarzan's mother and father went to Africa, built a tree house. They were going to do some exploration, and they were also going to do...
They were normal people. They weren't, like ape people either.
Correct.
Right?
They were just trying to... They were
just to clarify.
They were like kind of archaeologists, and they were sociologists, and they were going to investigate the world of Africa. And they built a tree house. Long story short, the tree house was attacked by a lion one night. The parents killed. They hid the child. Apes came to the tree house later on, found the child, raised the child as their own. Child became Tarzan, but then the civilization came to the island, or to where they were in Africa, and civilization found him, Jane, took him back to England, where he was Lord Greystoke, if you remember that.
Oh, right.
And he was very intelligent and spoke well and so forth, and became a man of society, but then said, this is not for me, and went back to Africa for the rest of his life.
Wow.
As Tarzan, to live and thrive there with Jane. So that's basically the story.
Okay,
but
right. Yeah.
He is a lot of the episodes are about, of course, what happens in Africa and the attack from man upon animals or attack from man upon native tribes, and he's there to do justice against evil society, basically, that's coming to destroy his world. But talk about that Disney movie. Listen to a little bit here, also about the meaning. There's more to it than just a guy in a loincloth, I think.
Why am I so different? Kerchak said I don't belong in the family.
Never mind what Kerchak said.
Look at me!
I am Tarzan. And do you know what I see? I see 2 eyes, like mine. 2 ears. Close your eyes. Now forget what you see. What do you feel?
My heart.
Come here.
sweetheart.
See, we're exactly the same.
So there it is, Glenn Close, by the way, playing the mom.
There was Glenn. That voice sounded familiar.
Yeah. It's if you let yourself go there, it's kind of touching. This whole story, it's where, this child is in a world where he's the minority. He is someone that's really out of place. Could be any of us in any circumstance. And he wants to change. And he's trying to put mud on himself to make him look like an ape and all that. And growing his hair with a certain way. And his mom is basically, who is an ape, is basically, if apes could talk, is saying to him, listen, there's nothing wrong with who you are and who I am. We have certain differences, but at heart, we're souls that can share this planet together and have feelings for each other. So I think it's an interesting message, and that message does get lost, I think, in the older movies. I don't know about the new one now, with this business of him being an ape man and just all he can do is talk like an ape or talk like a brute. That's not really what it's all about.
Me, Tarzan, you, Jane.
It's not just like Frankenstein. It's not written that way.
Right.
It's written for you to understand that he's trying to assimilate into this world. Remember, he has never met another human being, so he doesn't know why he's different, and the apes don't know why he's different. They can't, in the books, of course, I can't communicate with them that well, so he doesn't. He's just trying to be part of this group. So anyway, that's what that's about. Then he's got his relationship with Jane, which is very interesting too. Let's listen to the original 1934.
Tarzan, what am I doing here? Alone? With you? Perhaps I better not think too much about that. Just to be here, be happy. And I am happy. Not a bit afraid, not a bit sorry. Oh, Tarzan, I wish I could make you understand. Perhaps I can. Gradually.
That's Maureen O'Sullivan talking a very stinted way there.
Yeah.
But that's with Johnny Weissmuller. And what that relationship develops into is someone that's very loyal. There are other women that eventually meet Tarzan and they want to court him, let's say. And
among other things.
Yes, and he's very loyal to Jane. He is not ever cheated. He's very loyal, steadfastly saves her from danger and difficulties and so forth. But also there's an element there, I think, where women maybe relate in some way, where they see a gentleman that's kind of a blank slate and they can maybe mold him to the person they want him to be.
That's what happened to me, yeah.
How's that?
I was a blank slate. I got molded
to the irreplaceable man that you are now.
Right. You keep saying irreplaceable. I'm starting to get nervous.
Well, we'll see if you're able to pass the test of the Tarzan yell later on in the show.
Oh, okay.
But also, there's another element of Tarzan. Of course, this attraction, this physical attraction. And in 81, Tarzan the Ape Man was remade with Bo Derek, if you remember her.
God, if the girls back home can see me now.
The most exotic woman of our time in the most erotic adventure of all time. Tarzan, the Ape Man.
I mean, let's just skip to the Disney ending as well of that movie.
Jane, dear, I can't help feeling that you should stay.
Daddy, please don't. We've been through all of this. I couldn't possibly stay. I belong in England and with you, with people, and...
But you love him. Go on.
Now, back to America's entertainment pop culture talk show. Everything old is new again, with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
I think we should have taken a left at the river.
Tarzan, no. Where did Tarzan go?
Tarzan does not know where Tarzan go. Why don't you want to...
If you're a couple, you fight over directions.
Have to do that right here.
Welcome back to Everything Old is New Again. This is Douglas Viviani with the irreplaceable, I'll say it again, just for the heck of it, David Cohen.
Really getting me nervous with that. Who are you replacing me with? I want to know now. Tarzan, is he coming in? He's going to replace me?
Yes, he's very intelligent, that guy.
Obviously, more than I am.
But he doesn't seem intelligent in that commercial.
No, which is a funny Geico commercial.
It is, but it bothers me because it's not even close to the way Jane treats Tarzan, and Tarzan's not dopey, so neither of them is correct.
Right.
Not even close. But they talk to, if you know that commercial, they talk to a cheetah or a little chimp trying to get directions.
Yes,
right?
They're asking directions from the animals.
Right, and that does show the relationship between Tarzan and animals, or at least Jane is talking to the animal in that case, and the animal whatever, doesn't know where the waterfall is. But Tarzan has a great relationship with animals all the way back. You can see in this clip, it's going to be hard to hear. It's very quick, but this is a clip where Tarzan is attacked by lions and then saved by an elephant. Like that.
Yeah, you heard
That's some clip, huh?
Yeah. So
what happens is this elephant comes and scares the lion away.
Do lions get scared by elephants?
I don't know. In this world, they do. They're huge, and Tarzan's,
I guess,
and picks up Tarzan like a cub from the back of his head and carries
the elephant.
The elephant does
with his trunk.
Yes, and carries him off. So I don't know. There is this mythical, like if you talk about superheroes, what superpower does Tarzan have? Do you think
to communicate with animals? Isn't he able to summon them? He's the king of the jungle, right? Or is that George?
No, he sure can.
George of the jungle.
He does have a nice ability to have them stampede, like when there's like these huge armies he's up against, and it's just him.
Yeah, he whistles or does something, and they come running.
Let's hear it. Let's see what it goes on.
He's Tarzan. You're Jane. We'll come for him.
Great clips I got for you this week. But
is that Antonio Banderas? Who was that? Is that from the new movie?
That's from the new movie for sure. And if you heard the little steps at the end, that was a stampede. If you see the trailer, stampeding the village, and all the animals are on Tarzan's side defeating this army. So
I was able to picture that in my mind.
Okay.
Yes,
he's sort of the Aquaman,
right,
of Africa or of the jungle, maybe.
Right. Yeah,
that's so bad.
That's always been my impression of him.
But he's really strong too, and intelligent. So I mean, that's where we're at there. Does he qualify as a superhero? You think? That's the question.
Well, yeah, I think so.
I think so too.
I think so. But I'm still struggling with why am I going to see this movie?
Well,
you know
and
I mean?
I don't think this movie has any, because it's a serious remake too, a serious look at the topic.
It doesn't
have like Cheetah, who was the comic relief, right? Listen to this, the little chimp.
Oh, you crazy monkey! You give me that! You give me that! Don't drink that! Don't drink that! You get drunk, you crazy monkey!
I remember Cheetah, right, from all those movies?
That was you and I the other night at a bar. That's what I was saying to you. You crazy monkey, stop drinking.
That's my wife every Saturday night. Basically, the cheetah was integral in, I guess you'd say, the movies and in the TV show for sure. And you remember we did a show on Planet of the Apes, right?
Oh yeah,
and we talked about those apes and their place in our entertainment world. Before we get to that, Maureen O'Sullivan later on was on Dave's Letterman talking about Cheetah and what it was like to work with this ape.
Jane, Johnny Weissmuller, Johnny Sheffield, and a horrible little creature called Cheetah.
Cheetah.
Horrible. And every time I would go near Johnny, I would see this wicked look. She's getting ready to spring at me.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You will see Cheetah standing with one leg way out of the camera. And you know why that is? Because it was on a chain.
Because the longest story, if you're going to go to YouTube, you can pull this up. The longest story is that Cheetah was basically in love with Johnny Weissmuller. So was jealous when any of the pictures or in the films when Jane, the actress, was Maureen O'Sullivan, was interacting with Johnny Weissmuller. This cheetah would come over and interrupt the scenes and so forth. So they had to tie the chimp down, or put him on a leash.
Male or female?
Cheetah was male too.
Wow.
So this is real.
That's definitely a Hollywood story.
Yes, and had a very physical attraction that they had to cover up a lot of the times as well to show his passion for Johnny Weissmuller. So she did a tremendous story. It was very funny, but that's the essence of the story. And Cheetah was really no fun to work with for her. I think apes and I think you agree with me, chimps maybe a better word, is fun and a lost art in our pop culture today.
I'd like to see Cheetah in the movie. I agree with you on that point. Yeah.
I mean, it's a little comic relief something. Speaking of comic reliefs, let's just throw back to this.
Lancelot secret chimp. Stands for justice, he has no fear. He's in the cold when trouble is near. Lance Link, you gotta come through, everybody.
I know that's a favorite of yours. Explain to us what in the world, if you don't remember this, Lancelot Link was.
Lancelot Link was a live action show with chimps. No human actors, just chimps dressed in human clothing. And Lancelot Link was a spy. He was sort of like the Maxwell Smart,
from Get Smart. Yeah.
From Get Smart. So it was sort of a parody of that. And so Lancelot Link he was the man, he was the big spy. And the criminal organization was the acronym was APE. I don't remember what it stands for, but and the way they would make the chimps move their mouths to simulate talking was by giving them something like chewing gum, something to chew on so that their mouths would move. And they would have, obviously, human voices, voiceovers.
And it was a half-hour Saturday morning show, right?
For kids, yeah. But it was great.
Yeah, it was. You got to look that one up.
They even have a band of chimps that you heard singing in the background.
And written by a couple of people that wrote the Carol Burnett Show back in the
left
day.
the Carol Burnett Show.
Left
the Carol Burnett Show to write for Lancelot Link.
Unreal. So you've got, Cheetah, you've got Lancelot Link, and then you've got one more ape from back in the day, a chimp that was of interest. Let's listen to a clip about
Between those two, we've got that. Let's call it the Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig of chimpdom, and the Joe DiMaggio, if you will, is, if you're a baseball fan, is without question J. Fred Muggs, my favorite chimp of all time. Yes, he was the co-host of the show. There were times that they would put roller skates on him, and he would roll. The camera would stay stationary, and he'd roll from camera left to camera right. And in his hand, he'd have a placard with, let's say, the next guest that was to be on the show, and he would roll right across, and then he'd go back from right to left, and it was a big hit.
How lazy am I? I could have all said that just right now. I used a clip from a show from a year ago.
Oh, you made me retell the Lancelot Link story live on the spot.
I just wanted to break in the action, so I used a clip. That's a clip from Everything Old is New Again from, I don't know, a year and a half ago. We did our Planet of the Apes show.
That's right.
Anyway, but, there was Lancelot Link.
This is Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
The strength of Tarzan, no man can say. Deep in the jungle, Tarzan continues to enforce his law, the law of right. Tarzan's awesome warning cry is known to every living creature in the jungle.
Listen to that yell. This is Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen, and we're deep into our discussion of Tarzan and is he a superhero, and now we're at the point of this yell. We talked about he communicates with animals, and Jane certainly, but this yell is part of the whole thing. It's a makeup that he is communicating with long way away from his mate. And
Doug is trying to shut the fan off in the studio. He was trying to be very subtle about it, but
I couldn't find it. I just pulled it out of the wall. Did you hear that at home? I don't know if you heard the fan. Maybe
I didn't even hear it until I saw you fumbling with this. By the way, the fan, it's like one of those big box fans, too. He was he was picking it up, trying to shut it off.
You may have almost heard me yell like Tarzan.
Yeah, if you would have lost a finger.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, we're going to focus a little bit on the yell itself and see it's something that is iconic. Back in the day when your grandfather, your grandmother, great-grandparents heard and saw these movies, even your parents, it depends how old you are, or you have heard, in the 30s and 40s and 50s and even 60s, a TV show, 1966 there was a TV show, there is a yell that's distinctive to Tarzan.
Right.
The question is, where did that yell come from?
Yeah.
This is developed from a literary character in a book. Clearly the yell...
With no explanation of how the yell sounded.
Correct. So first actor we talked about already was Elmo Lincoln. And it was an actor from 1918, did the original Tarzan movie in silent movies. Now, I found a clip, I think this is tremendous, of him 30 years later on a show called You Asked For It on television, where they would, the people would write in and say, I want to see this.
Asked for it.
There you go. Exactly right. And they had Elmo Lincoln on the show, and they asked him to do something. Let's take a clip.
And that is that barrel chest of yours. I want you to expand it there and give forth with that original blood-curdling jungle call, will you? You mean this?
It sounds like he fell off.
Someone's killing him.
It sounded like he fell off the tree and broke his leg or something.
It was horrible.
So that's why it's funny, because remember, that was the actor in the silent movies. What if there was sound? Think about this.
Right. But so he was the actor in the silent movie. Now, how did people even know he did the scream?
Well, he
then?
would open his mouth and it would just go, yeah.
And that's what came out?
But think about it.
Thank goodness it was silent.
Right. If he was in a movie like Johnny Weissmuller where that was the sound, I think the whole Tarzan craze would have died right then. Think about if he did that sound.
They would not have let that on the screen. They wouldn't have released the movie with that.
And then from there, the first one we heard it earlier today, we'll do it again real quick, was 1933 Buster Crabbe, his attempt. All right, a little better. We've got
a little better,
but still not great. And you know why now he didn't carry that role too long either. It was just the one serial he did. Then Johnny Weissmuller, who you all know from 1934 to 1947, did 12 movies. This is Johnny Weissmuller. That is a yell.
That's impressive, and he actually did that.
Now that's the controversy. Great question. There's controversy that he claims, and he claims his entire life, and so does Maureen O'Sullivan, who's his co-star, that he did that what would you say, not helped by any kind of audio help at all.
Right.
The studio says, and they own that yell. The studio, by the way, owns that yell, and they said that they enhanced it in some ways with the technology of the time. But think about it. It was 1933. There wasn't a lot of technology at the time back then.
No.
So,
but it does sound like that. That's tough to do.
But it sounds a little augmented in some way. But what he says is, when he was a child, he did yodeling as a kid. As part of a yodel.
Okay.
That kind of makes sense. Listen to this. I think this is pretty cool. We got Weissmuller and then Maureen O'Sullivan giving it her try. So Tarzan yelling and then Jane responding. This is the cell phone of the day.
That was definitely altered, especially hers.
Hers is definitely altered, don't you think?
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah.
So now here's the question. Is she covering up when she was interviewed and always said that Johnny did it himself?
Yeah, I think they were both
because
enhanced.
they were both augmented. I think
that little Twitter, that's really hard to do.
But what technology did they have in the... I mean,
I'm sure they could. They had tape. They could speed up. They could speed up the sound. Mike could probably chime in on this, right?
Our producer, our engineer.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you could definitely. I mean, I don't know. When was that done?
1933.
But they had audio tape.
They had like reel to reel, if you're lucky.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about the technology back then.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy now. You can do it in 2 seconds, but
sound like they may have
would have been difficult.
Might have been tough.
Okay.
All right. It's interesting.
Okay.
Well, maybe the only thing I can think is that they moved maybe they sped it up, maybe, or maybe they kind of like played with it like a DJ does now, or where they move the what am I thinking about? Like where they with the records and they spin them and they
sure,
So
yeah.
maybe they did that a little bit with the tape back and forth at the end.
But
maybe
there was no
Speed.
scream. Like, they had nothing to work off of, so they didn't know what sound they were making.
So let me put it this way. I mean, better question. They had the actors do it, but maybe they could augment it where they sped it up a little bit or they slowed it down. I don't know.
Yeah,
At least you could probably maybe have done that.
I mean, if you're talking about only that little twitch there,
yeah.
I mean, do you really need it? I mean, I guess it helps it, but if you don't know that you can make that sound,
that's true, right? How would they even think of that?
Right.
Like, let's make this little thing that goes
right at the end. Yeah. So I'd say we'll never answer that question. It's a question of credibility, I guess. Then there was Gordon Scott, 1958. Tarzan fights for his life. Sorry, that I misspoke. That was Tarzan, the 8-Man, 81. They used Johnny Weissmuller's yell. Here's Tony Goldwyn, the Tarzan, the Disney movie. And here is Tarzan, the newest 2016. Tarzan the legend. All right, so now that's where we now have rushed a little bit.
We've come really far. 2016, it just sounds like he's got, like strep throat or something.
Exactly, he's in the distance. All right, we've got to give it a try. We basically have 1 minute to do this.
All right, let's
give
do
it a
it.
shot.
Yes.
Who wants to go first?
Go ahead.
We're going to try our own hand at a Tarzan yell.
Stand back from your radios.
Stand back from the microphone so it doesn't overmodulate. Here we go. No.
Sounded more Native American, but all right. All right, here's mine. You ready?
Yo, Jane, over here!
I mean, that's what he's doing it for, right?
It is.
Okay.
It is. I'm going to try one more time,
all
right?
Yeah.
Yo, hey, ho, ho, hey, ho, ho! Oh, that's a good one. What did we
was
just
pretty
say?
good.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
I think we just had the argument you love to have in Tarzan talk.
Exactly. And, of course, I was right.
All right, I think it's something that's funny you could try at home. And if you want to try that at home and send it to us, we'll play it on the air. Your attempt at the Tarzan yell. We'll come up with a new one on Everything Old is New Again. Take a look at our website, everythingoldisnewagain.biz, everythingoldisnewagain.biz, or send us a note, oldnewagain at AOL.com. Oldnewagain at AOL.com. Yeah-hee-ho-hey-ho! No?
Well, it's different, I'll give you that.
Come on back. Everything old is new again. All right, I'll take the garbage out already. It's enough. You've been listening to Everything Old is New Again, America's pop culture entertainment talk show. Find us on the web at everythingoldisnewagain.biz. That's .biz.
See you next week. Same bat time, same bat station.